Gen Z Mama, like we call her, who's an expert in organizational development, also a consultant and managing partner at Emisi Consulting. Of course, we'll play their profile shortly. Please sit back and soak in their brilliance. You will see why we're calling this our grand final session.
Introducing Seyi Olulade. Seyi Olulade is the managing partner and co-founder of the Impeccable Skills Company, TISC, a business advisory and HR consulting firm established in 2010. With over 20 years of expertise in people development and organizational transformation, she is a certified SPHRI, trained business analyst, psychometrician, and holds a master's degree in organizational behavior from the University of Lagos. An alumna of the SEEBS Owners Director Program, she is also a fellow of both the Institute of Leadership, Coaching, and Strategy, ILCS, and the Institute of Management Consultants, IMC, as well as a Certified Management Consultant, CMC. Beyond her executive leadership, Seyi contributes to several boards and advisory councils across Africa, including YHI Nigeria, AEHRP, OLDN in Harare, and TRESI Nigeria. She is a member of Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa, the Boardroom Africa, and serves as faculty member for HRCI with Certification Edge. Passionate about driving social impact, she has advised on frameworks that advance organizational leadership and development while mentoring professionals across industries. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome with a round of applause, Seyi Olulade.
Introducing Adepeju Adegoke. Adepeju Adegoke is the managing partner at Emisi Performance Improvement Solutions, a firm that helps organizations align their people, process, practice, and performance, 4 Ps, to achieve strategic goals. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Fisheries Management, University of Ibadan, an Advanced Diploma in Human Resource Management, and a Master's in Industrial and Labour Relations, MILR, from the University of Lagos. Adepeju is a full member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, MCIPM, a Certified Management Consultant, PSSDC, Silver Pebble UK CMI, Certified Trainer, CMD, Certified KPI Practitioner, CKPIP, and Certified Coach, PCCP. She is also a trained corporate and board member, Lagos Business School, and recently completed an organizational culture certification course by Culture Factor, awaiting accreditation. She sits on the board of advisors at Edge Edwards Limited, is a board member of FERT Promax, leads a CEOs group within TCN CCG, and is a squad lead at the Coding Mum, a tech community for mothers. As a certified coach, Adepeju is passionate about guiding individuals through transformative life transitions, offering tools and clarity for success. She also enjoys graphic design and animation, aspires to be a compeer, and champions the cause of individuals over 50 pursuing second-half careers. Ladies and gentlemen, join us in welcoming Adepeju Adegoke. Introducing Adeyemi Ajayi. Adeyemi Ajayi is an accomplished HR professional with extensive experience across multiple industries, including professional services, financial services, logistics, FMCG, and healthcare. He is results-driven, with expertise in leadership development, talent management, employee engagement, change management, and HR digital transformation. Adeyemi holds several prestigious certifications, including SPHRI, and is a Fellow of CIPM, NITAD, and FIMC. He serves on the Governing Council of CIPM Nigeria as an elected council member and chairs the Innovation and Digital Transformation Committee. Currently, he is the head of HR at Synlabi Nigeria and HR lead for Synlab Emerging Markets. Passionate about leadership and people development, he enjoys teamwork, planning, and event organization. Adeyemi is happily married with a lovely family. Ladies and gentlemen, join us in giving a warm welcome to Adeyemi Ajayi. Introducing David Adeoye. David Adeoye is the principal partner at Cubed Integrated Management Consulting and executive director at XPOS Technologies, with over 2 decades of multidisciplinary experience spanning technology, behavioral psychology, project management, and business process optimization. Holding an MBA from Holt International Business School, 2021, and a Master of Science in Cybersecurity, Threat Intelligence, and Cyber Forensics, 2022, he integrates advanced technological insight with deep expertise in human psychology to drive superior performance and organizational success. His consulting experience cuts across industries such as telecommunications, oil and gas, FMCG, and financial services, helping clients achieve operational excellence, innovation, and profitability through strategic people, process, and technology alignment. A certified professional in project management, PMP, Scrum, CSM, CSPO, CSPSM, Six Sigma, and business process management, David is also a fellow and certified management consultant, FIMC, CMC. As a behavioral psychologist, life coach, and NLP practitioner, he is renowned for catalyzing transformation in individuals and organizations through creativity, strategic foresight, and data-driven insights. His passion for artificial intelligence, consumer psychology, and values re-engineering fuels his mission to help people and businesses achieve sustainable success. He has consulted for leading brands including MTN, Airtel, Troika Holdings, Citibank, AXA Mansard, DPR, and Napims, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Adeoye. Introducing Dave.
Segun Akiyode is a global HR leader with over a decade of global experience across diverse industries, providing strategic total reward advisory to senior leadership. He is skilled in crafting and executing innovative reward strategies that attract, retain, and motivate top talent across global markets. With a background in chemical engineering and a career built around human capital strategy, Segun brings a rare blend of analytical rigor and people-centric insight to the world of HR. His extensive industry background spans fast-moving consumer goods, financial services, healthcare, supply chain and logistics, information technology, oil and gas, and marketing communications. Segun is a born teacher with a passion for knowledge sharing. He is a Udemy instructor with over 20,000 students globally and a YouTube content creator with more than 17,000 subscribers, where he shares practical human resources insight. He is deeply committed to personal development and impact, driven by a desire to inspire others and leave a meaningful legacy. His guiding mantra is simple: to die empty, leaving his footprint on the sands of history. He describes himself humbly as a work in progress.
Right, fantastic. Thank you for. Let's give a warm welcome to our panelists. Of course, from those introductions, you can see that we have powerhouses joining us today. Just give me a minute. Let's spotlight all our panelists so we can see their beautiful, handsome faces. Fantastic. All right. Thank you for joining us, Seyi. Thank you, Segun. Thank you, Adepeju, thank you. Adeyemi, thank you. David as well. All right, so let's get the conversation rolling, right? Let me just confirm that David Adeoye is with us. I can't see him at the moment. Okay. Right, I think we'll just proceed until we're able to find David Adeoye on the call. All right, so let's begin by setting the tone for our discussion this wonderful evening here in Lagos. Right, so 2025 has been a year of rapid transformation across industries. There's been a lot of conversations around AI acceleration, shifts in workplace dynamics, and heightened business agility, right? So we look ahead, right, to 2026. What does 2026 actually hold for human resources, right? That's the bone of our conversation today. So I think I'll start with Seyi. Now, how do you foresee HR evolving in its strategic influence, capability requirements, and value to business performance? Please confirm you can hear me. Hi, Seyi. Please confirm you can hear me.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to my network. So can you come again? Because the network was on deleting for me.
All right. So I was trying to get your opening thoughts, right? Looking at the outlook for 2026 within the HR space, right? Of course, this question will go around for everybody, taking our opening thoughts on today's topic, right? So how do we foresee the HR profession evolving in 2026? We'll start with you, Seyi.
So maybe I would like to start saying first that the HR practice itself is going to see a lot of rapid change, and HR is going to evolve into a more strategic role, albeit it's one that would see a lot of automation, AI inclusive. And also for me, one of the things I'm beginning to see in the multiple roles that I currently hold, because I also manage a company that is into manpower resourcing in the oil and gas industry. And because we're working with global talents and what have you, I'm beginning to see that HR now, because of the gig and the lattice kind of environment we're finding ourselves, we begin to see HR playing more deeply in contractual, HR playing more deeply in governance, risk, and control, because of the trends and the demand we're seeing globally. And roles are becoming, roles within organization, whether global, whether local, are demanding flexibility, whether you like it or not. Roles are demanding a lot of remote. We're beginning to see a lot of that come to play. And for HR, it's not so much as HR as it's traditionally played. At this point, we begin to see HR solving not just people issues in the business, but business issues itself. So, I mean, I'm opportune to also sit on many boards and also being coach on board holders. And I'm beginning to see in the last 10 years that even at the board level, you're not really so concerned about the HR issues, but about business issues. So HR needs to begin to align itself. A lot of things are changing, and traditional HR is already being challenged. Contracts are changing. Nobody is looking for long-term employment again. So I think I'll just stop here and let my other colleagues share share their own views on that, and we can take the questions that come.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Seyi, for sharing your opening thoughts. Segun, looking forward to 2026, how do you see the HR practice evolving?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, anywhere you're joining us from. So, I see HR. So I'm going to be wearing multiple hats in this question. I'm going to be speaking from an understanding of someone that has operated in Africa, now operating in Europe, because both continents have different challenges, as it were. But there are challenges that will cut across both markets. And one of such is the business is going to be looking out to HR to help them solve workforce mobility. If you look at the demographics of Africa and the demographic of Europe, Europe is beginning to become an aging organization, or if I call it an organization, an aging demographics. And we see a lot of people getting into retirement early and people in retirement coming back. But in Africa, we see a lot of agile workforce. And we think that the Japa movement has stopped. I think we're getting into another wave of the Japa movement from the conversations around the political climate and the government policies. 2026 is going to be seeing the evolving of the tax reform. And stop talking about it simply because I'm also getting more confused by the day. A few days ago, I got some news that short-term investments are now going to be taxed, which withholding tax. And I asked myself the question. Now, I think the problem is the policies are going to be changing the way HR is doing things, and the business will be looking at HR for solutions. And HR is also going to be fighting technology. As a matter of fact, the introduction we did earlier today, at the start of this webinar, I was almost convinced that some of them were AI driven. You don't need to convince me, but I'm almost convinced. Now, Europe is already at the of AI. We have organizations whereby ChatGPT and Gemini is part of a work tool. So I work for an organization, not a private organization, a public organization, and Gemini is part of my work tool. So we're currently having issues around data protection. At what point do you record videos? At what point do you transcribe? Now, that is where Europe is. So they're beginning to look at things around AI, ethical HR. How do you use HR for interviews? And how do you even use it in your day-to-day work? But Africa might be doing catch-up. We're still having issues whereby people feel that, which, for all you know, this video could be AI. Are you sure that this is not AI speaking? If you're familiar with the way I speak, you might be able to know. So now I'm seeing a situation whereby there is an intersection around technology. The policies are changing. How is HR going to stand to that level to help the business? So it's almost like a spectrum. I'll take a pause and I'll hand over. I'll yield the mic. I don't know who you're calling next, but I can almost envisage. I don't know. Don't mind me. Please, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Segun, for those opening remarks from your lens, looking at the outlook of HR in 2026. Gen Z Mama, Adepeju Adegoke, looking out from your own lens, right? 2026. What is your foresight? What do you see?
From my lens, I don't want to take it from what is going to happen. I want to take it from what you as a HR person need to do. Number one, you need to just be still. You need to be calm as a HR professional. I've been in this race for quite some while, even not being a HR person. And I felt that everything that is happening is evolving. We're building, it's incremental. And in that kind of environment, when new things come, like I was reading today, they're talking about Figital, that they are combining physical and digital. don't stress yourself. Just calm. Be calm. No matter that. So that links me to you being agile. So you see, I mean, I don't want to come from that or say, okay, this is what people are saying. I want to come from the angle that this is the environment that we have found ourselves. We are like in the time of COVID. There's so much upheaval. But the good thing about this is that we know, but COVID, we didn't know. But this one you are hearing that, oh, AI is going to do this, oh, tax is going to do this. Be calm so that when you are calm, you can think creatively. And you're not buffeted by everything that everybody's saying. Everybody's saying this. They're telling you they've done this survey, they've done that survey. You as an individual, what are you picking in the environment? So there is that need for calmness as HR professionals, because we can all sit here and say, oh, this is what's going to happen. Yes, it's going to happen. There are signs, there are things that are happening, but how do you respond? That is critical. So I think I'll stop there for now.
Thank you so much, Adequiju, for those encouraging words, right? HR leaders, be still. There's no need to panic, right? 2026, be still. Adeyemi, your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Prince. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're all joining. I would say good evening from where, good afternoon from where I'm joining from this evening. Like Segun, I'm somewhere close around Segun this afternoon. All right, and a great insight from Sheyi, Adequiju, and Segun. So for me, I will pick it off from where they all stopped to say, number one, global events will continue to shape people management practices, because we need to first start with where we are. We are within a space, the globe. So the global events, they will shape HR practice as they have continued to do so. And I will approach this from the PESO model, looking at the political climate, the economic climate, the social climate, of course, the technological factors, the legal factors, and the environmental factors that will be shaping how we practice human resource management. Businesses are going to become very, very aggressive about business recovery, about growth, about expansion. And this will put a whole lot of pressure on HR in terms of the businesses are going to depend much more on HR, not just as HR, as people managers, but as business leaders. A whole lot will, depend on HR, just like the days of COVID, when businesses had to depend on HR, for business continuity. We're going to be seeing more of these happening, in the coming year. Value-based talent acquisition, it will become a very major consideration, going beyond just skill and competence. We're going to be looking, facing an era of value-based recruitment, where culture will shape how we acquire talent, how we manage talent, and how we retain talent. It's not just going to be skill will no longer be enough, because again, we've discovered that we can train for skill, we can train for competence, but how do we, embed culture, and value within the organization? We are going into an era where employees will be required to have multiple skills in terms of how we manage, because companies are going to be demanding that people becomes more, that will become more nimble in terms of FTE numbers, in terms of the head count. So we're going to be seeing whereby people will need to have several skills. Critical thinking and problem solving and communication skills will become a major differentiating factor, as we move into the next year. Fiscal discipline and of course optimization will be a major focus, because again, as we look at the economic outlook for next year, while inflation for some countries is beginning to stabilize and all of that. However, government regulations also in some countries will also be pushing inflation further at some point. Even as we are looking at closing around 35% and thereabout, some countries, we're also looking at it coming down to single digit and of course undulating. And that will require optimization of our cost. And of course, HR not being left out of this. Segun had mentioned about the tax regime that is coming up. Again, between looking at some employees getting more money by virtue of reduction based on the new tax law. Again, those on the high end also will also be paying more money. However, it's looking more like government giving with one hand and collecting with another hand. Petroleum tax is also coming. So again, while we are looking at how inflation is going to stabilize, certain those issue of petroleum tax may also be pushing inflation even out of reach. And of course, HR, we are going to become risk managers and compliance managers in the coming year, because watch out, statutory bodies, PENCOM, NSITF, ITF, they are coming for all of you this, 2026, because they need to generate more revenue for the government and they need to be self-sustaining. So let me pause there. Hey, there's a whole lot that we're going to be unraveling in the next couple of minutes. Those will be my opening thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adeyemi Ajayi, for those wonderful thoughts. We'll come back to you. Would appreciate if your audio could be a little higher. Right. All right. I see David Adeoye joined us earlier. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. But I don't know for
Fantastic.
whatever reason my video isn't coming on. It says host as
wow.
disabled. So apologies. I guess technically.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for joining us. It's great to have you here.
Yes.
So let's hear from you, your opening thoughts, the HR Outlook 2026. What do you foresee?
Okay, interesting conversation. I met both Adepeju, Madam Peju, and Shegun's comment, and then Pastor Professor Ajayi's comments. I missed Shei Olulada's comments. Apologies. I mean, I agree with all the speakers. In fact, Mrs. Adepeju's comments are very powerful. As simple as that comment is probably the most powerful for me. The nature of the changes and the complexity of changes and the size and scale of it. There are going to be changes. The problem with the future is that it is hooded, at the same time it is plain. Some part of it that's shrouded in mystery, some part of it is clear. Even when you think that you've predicted the change accurately, it will still hit you very powerfully. Like Shegun said, now it's not a matter of maybe, it's a matter of how you're going to be hit. For example, by things like job loss. I mean, it was on the WhatsApp platform a couple of years ago, and some people will remember that conversation. People were saying AI is not going to come to Nigeria. I say it's not going to come to Nigeria. It is AHRP WhatsApp chat. And I'm laughing that we are discussing. We're so comfortable now. And I remember laughing. I remember why was trying to pipe me down. I said I laugh in Spanish because AI is already in your inboxes. That was my comment that day. You already have large language models running in your Google Drive, running in your email. As we type on that day, say AI will not come to Nigeria. Where did you hear that one from? So what's my bigger point? That we are not aware of the changes will not be the issue. The one that will pain us is that we said it to, oh, you mean AI, automation. Oh, learning and development optimization budget. We didn't know this is the way to come. You see, the limbo of what you need to watch out for is already there. But how it will hit you will be different. I mean, I can't agree less with Adeyemi Ajayi. Everything he said, look, you should employ him immediately as your L&D change management consultant, and Segun Akinode for your AI and statistical analysis consultant, and for your well-being, you should employ Madam Adepeju immediately. I don't know because I didn't hear my sister's own because I know she's all under. But here's my point. We will be hit, knowing we'll be hit, but the angle, the size, the scale, the complexity, there's nothing new under heaven. In fact, the limbo, we are at a comfortable place in terms of the limbo, what will happen. I think how we're going to be hit will be the issue, discernment, to know how AI will hit us, what parameters we need to tweak, the discernment, to know this is the angle is going to come from. You mentioned risk management. Yeah, but some risks are going to crystallize in ways we didn't expect. For example, a lot of us don't believe, for example, that we are managing for the first time 5 factors. So when you hear things like talent management and war for talent, no. You're going to have war for animals. Animals are now talent officially. You understand? You understand? We're going to be managing the planet. We're going to be managing things like the planet. Carbon emission is part of the considerations of the tax. I mean, somebody said the planet and things like watching the planet is not a factor of production in Nigeria. I laughed. There is provision in the new tax regime. And thank you for saying it's getting confusing, because this morning I read something from the Honorable Executive in charge of tax, where he said he's giving 50 relief. So there are 50 relief items of the upcoming tax regime. I didn't want to read the remaining. Now, anywhere a tax master, the chief of tax, is giving you 50 relief and say for the masses, it's not compatible with taxation. Fraud. So in order to help my sanity and not increase my blood pressure, I decided not to read it. That's an example of hocus pocus. So the planet, for example, and how much carbon footprint that you are able to save will be a factor all of a sudden in Nigeria. So when people say things like, no, the carbon, the whatever is happening in the planet will not affect us about the planet. No, it's going to be a factor of production, and it's going to happen immediately. So let's talk about 5 things. We're going to be managing. There's war for talents. There's war for animals. There's war for machine. That's number 3. And the chief of HR, will he be hit by these guys? So there's machine. There is man, which is traditional war for talent. Man now has 6 generations, including babies, because babies are an orienting factor in an organization. So we're going to be having organizations that have to have renewed ways of looking at the maternity and family life thingy. So apart from all the, we said there are 5 generations in the workspace now, and now babies have entered into the equation, because it's now what people now are thinking. If I'm going to be thinking war for talent, how do I ensure that next generation is taken care of and I motivate and hold the full human being? So we're going to be, animals are now involved. Like the British police, American police, Central London police has more dogs than human beings, immigration and all of those. In Nigeria and Africa, some companies are beginning to, train cows. You won't believe it. They begin to train. So and the head of HR is the human resource manager, who will be doing the relief form for. You understand? And there's also compliance for machines. So that's 4 things. So machine, man, animals, and the planet. For the first time, the chief of HR will be balancing those 4, plus his personal sanity. That's my last element, the chief of HR is. Because by the end of 2026, 2027, I say it all the time, the question will be one of the every 4 persons having mental issue. The question will be, how long are you saving for this year? By middle of 2027, I was in and out of depression 6 months, God forbid, in Jesus' name. See, the pastor said me killed him. So we're going to have more religious biases, and within the works, all of that is hitting the HR. So the key is to begin to ready your flexibility muscles and increase your discernment energy. And you will need to practically let some roles go and let some roles come here. That's my last opening shot. Let me explain. We know that in between Coursera and getting a full consultant, for example, to come and train us in process excellence, but how do we know what balance to give? There'll be things like testing, scenario planning, because if you say you shave budget because of AI intervention, L&D, for example, and you didn't use the consultant, you don't have the benefit of people asking questions in unclear areas. And if there's a particular operation critical area where a physical facilitator will have made a lot of sense with more experience, you've cut cost on one leg. What if mistakes suddenly increase? So you can't do a blank strategic session that we did in July or June or October, and then you expect that's going to last you for the whole year. No. The ability to take feedback will be more important than the strength of your strategy. All right? And adaptation will be more important than any other thing. Let me stop there before I take all the time. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I yield the mic.
Thank you so much, David Adeoye-Abodunrin. Wonderful opening remarks from all our panelists. And of course, it's been an electrifying start to the conversation today. For our participants, please, if you do have questions, We'll come to that in the Q&A session in about 45 minutes, and then we'll take your questions. You can either use the raise hand feature or you put your questions in the chat box as we go along. Also, would appreciate if our panelists can keep their responses to within 3 to 4 minutes, right? So we can at least take comments from all our panelists and have more than enough time for the Q&A session later during our conversation. So we've talked a lot about AI. There's been conversations about what's to come in 2026 around different aspects. So let's talk about leadership. Let's talk about strategy and the role of HR in business transformation looking ahead to 2026. I'll start with you, Adepeju. Now, a lot of people have had conversations surrounding the possibility of uncertain economic climates in 2026. Of course, if you look back to what's happened over the past week or so, our friend Donald Trump has said a lot, right? That has shaken a few of us in Nigeria. Now, you are an organizational development transformation expert, right? So from your view, how can HR position itself as the architect of organizational resilience and adaptability in uncertain economic climates?
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Firstly, you do not build resilience in the organizational structure in the building, you build it in the people. And I like what Mr. David said. He said about training, and that's what I say as a consultant. Organizations want to fly, they don't want to train their people. When you talk about resilience, is it the structure? Is it the door? Is it I don't know, the chair that is going to be resilient? Is it your bank account? Is it the AI that will be resilient or the human being? So you as a HR person, and I know I deal with a lot of organizations that can't afford automation, all this thing that we're talking about. So I like to keep it real when it comes to me because I'm a consultant. And when you go into the room, not everybody has the energy of SaneLab. They've been alive forever. I mean, we've been there. But just know how to bring training and development to your people, because without empowering the people to understand what resilience is, what agility is, they will just be looking at you when you're making that. We have to be agile. We have to be this. We have to be that, and you're speaking big English, all those things that you're speaking, they just be looking at you like this. So that is why you have the pool of people that you allow to be creative. If you want to call Mr. Ajayi, say, please, just come for 1 hour, help us. We will just give you a honorarium. He will come. Madam Sherry, Michael, please come. So that all these things that we are talking, the first place is to empower the people before you start talking to them about it. So that they welcome it and they are not, wondering what you're saying. Because part of the things that I noted is that there's going to be need to be more agile as HR. You plan, you do, you check, and then you act. If it's not working, throw it away. And that's what Mr. David said. Don't do large scale rollouts in things. Work out with some people. If it's not working, think about it again. So even you as a HR person, that was why I said you need to be calm. You need to work on yourself. And he spoke about burnout also for the HR person. But so that's the thing. Don't, even when they tell you, we can't afford, look for somebody who you have that relationship that can come in and empower your people, because people are the ones who are resilient, not the organization. Resilient people build resilient organizations. Agile people build agile organizations, and you don't pick the skills on the road. And not everybody around them has the how would I say it now? The grace, in quote, to be self-developing. So it's key that we find a way to ensure that empowering people. And let me just sound up with this. When I was working in a particular organization, and they are still holding it till today, 20 years, to almost 18 years or so, I left the organization in 2008. They still have staff development sessions every day, every Thursday, where they pick topics and they train the people. I don't know how they do it now, you need to be creative. That's why I spoke about creative thinking. In hospitals, we have ground rounds. In those ground rounds, 1 week they talk about technical issues, the next week they talk about soft skills, and it's the people themselves. So you can use that avenue. I just gave it that free of charge.
Thank you so much, Adekweju. Now, Adeyemi, coming to you now. 2026 will likely test HR's credibility as a strategic business partner, right? Now, so how can HR move from operational efficiency to enterprise transformation leadership in 2026?
Thank you very much, Prince. Okay. How do we move from just focusing on operation to becoming very strategic? First, I would say that as business leaders, because first I see HR more as business leaders than just people managers, more as strategic business decision makers than just managing people. So first, I would say we must be able to, HR must galvanize business leaders for growth. And what do I mean by that? We need to reset and demonstrate expectations in terms of the criteria of performance of our leaders, in terms of what we define as competency models, in terms of the developmental programs that our organizations are focusing on. The era in which we're just doing things because, just carrying out activities as HR because we want to spend budget or we want to carry out those things, that era is gone. We ourselves must be able to reset the criteria of what competence leaders must have within the organization. Number two is that we should be able to create tools for leaders and employees for them to understand their emotions and how to handle those emotions, what they feel, how they feel, and how to deal with it. Because whether we like it or not, people are driven by their emotions in the workplace, and even leaders too. And that's why we've been talking about emotional intelligence all of this while. But it's time for us to actually teach people to be able to, give them tools to actually understand those emotions and how to manage and deal with those emotions. Now, we must be able to identify the core skills that are changing, that really matters. Yes, we are saying that a lot of things are changing. People should have new skills, build new competencies. But we must, as HR, first determine which of those skills matters within our own context, within our own organization. Not every organization are going to be focusing on using AI. It may not matter in some organizations. If well attendance, for example, AI may not matter to that full attendance that is just carrying Nozu. And you still need that person to be able to deliver and work and make money. So we must be able to identify the core skills that are changing, that really matters most. And then how can employees demonstrate those skills more in terms of using it? HR leaders must be able to embed culture for us to drive employee performance. Whatever strategy that we're putting in place, culture is key. Value is important. That is the foundation of everything that we do. Now, how do we drive the understanding of corporate values that would how do we also measure the proficiency of corporate values, across various cadres of employees, for example? How do we, for example, if you say that your value is, respect, what should that respect, what proficiency of respect should your C-suite be demonstrating? What proficiency of respect should your middle managers be demonstrating? What proficiency of respect should the entry-level workers be demonstrating? How do we translate our values into actionable and into actions and conceptualize behavior so that we can facilitate actions that will reflect and sustain the desired culture within our organization? These are critical things. And let me land on this. How do we integrate culture values into all our business processes? All our values, what we name as our core values organization, how do we begin to integrate them and embed them into our business processes such that we can create an environment that we can consistently reinforce the desired behaviors and the values that we want to see in organizations? These are going to be very critical things that HR needs to begin to do for us to become more strategic in our organizations. We are in an era that HR, we must be able to shape work in the human and machine workforce era. Again, Adeoye has also talked about animals, of course, that we're going to be managing. How do we shape, behaviors? And how do we ensure that we are investing in differentiated capabilities that competitors cannot easily replicate? So if you train an animal, a dog, to be able to sniff very well, to be able to detect corruption, detect fraud, and all of those things, how do we ensure that you are doing that in such a way that your competitors cannot easily replicate it, so that you can easily structure your workforce and optimize your cost? All of these are things that HR needs to do to become more strategic. Let me just pause there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adeyemi, for your thoughts. Shay, coming to you. I think you talked about burnout earlier.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of people experience leadership fatigue. Burnout is rising globally, right? Now, how can HR foster human-centric leadership that balances performance with empathy in 2026?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for me, burnout in the global, in the times that we find ourselves, it's almost inevitable. But like Adekweju said during our opening remarks, she said, be still first. For me as HR, you must first understand the power of harnessing your social capital, your stakeholders. Yeah, to get your job done. I think because of what is happening in most of our organizations, especially in this climate of ours, where we're seeing Segun said something, or I can't remember whether it was Segun or Yemi that said, you see those who have retired coming back to work and the younger ones retiring early. So what is also happening is we're finding a lot of people, like my pastor will say, sitting on all they can and can on all they can sit on. So you're trying to secure your seat and your position and thereby losing yourself. And you're taking on so much. Don't forget that we live in a society that is capitalist inclined. So for so many small and medium-scale organizations, you begin to find a situation where employers of labor are not even, they're thinking of, somebody said to me, oh, it's job enrichment. I said, no, this is not job enrichment. This is job slavery. Well, you're using one person to do almost 5 persons' job. And he thinks, oh, it is because I taught them about lattice movement and lattice career and what have you within the organization. He says, you say it's lattice now, so they can do many things. But that's not what it is. So as individuals, particularly as HR, first, be first self-aware of your own strengths, because you can't give what you don't have. You have to first practice it before you can then begin to entrench it into the system, where you are devising a system where leaders can begin to shed their weight and begin to see the power to the people to solve the problems, and not taking on so much. Using technology where you can use technology, also where you can, and a lot of organizations don't want to spend on training. But you have community, a huge and very rich community that you can tap into. I remember many years ago, I was head of HR in an organization. Up to, it was head of corporate services, but it was then called HR and admin. Up to the career services, because it was a marketing communication industry and media for that matter. So we're doing heavy spend on media, working with all the media houses across the nation, across Africa, buying media. And what I mean by buying media, we're placing adverts, TV, electronics, and all of them. And of course, we'll spend a lot on career. that is supposed to be admin task to ensure that we don't overspend. We minimize our spend. Guess what? I created committee for that, to manage that. I created committee for everything. One, I read in a book recently that talked about one of the ways to improve productivity in the organization. And when you're improving productivity, it means you're paying attention to wellness, you're paying attention to agility, you're paying attention to development, skilling, and all those things. And they said one of them is employee involvement. Don't begin to, as much as possible, utilize the people around you, harness their strength, and let them become, when you're self-aware, you are able to decipher what your strengths are and where the area where you know you're not so strong. You look for individuals within even your organization that fit into that, and you begin to see that part to them. You know, you find out again, another thing that would also help for that is when Professor David Adeoye, call him Professor, already mentioned something. He mentioned something and he touched on it. Looking at educating on your process. A lot of organizations right now are not even aware of what their process, organizational process assets framework is. And once you are able to identify that, it helps to ensure that this issue of burnout is addressed, because it helps your resource allocation. It helps you to know where you are dissipating energy. And once you are able to account for all those things, what do? You begin to eliminate, you begin to reduce, you begin to increase what you need to increase and recreate. So for me, as much as you can divest, like in business, we talk about diversion of risk. Exactly, cooperate, collaborate. As a business, we talk about diversing of risk. And when you want to divert your risk, it means that you look for somebody else that has something. Even though you have it, they have more, you give them to do. And then you begin to make sure that people don't spend their time doing mundane things. Organization work activities are changing. And you must be, in HR, as the HR person, you must be involved to be sure that people are not just spending time and just being is it a wheel that gathers no mode, that you're just doing the same thing, the same time, where there are other very critical and important things to be done in the organization. So the more power you see to people to do, it relieves you the ability to think clearly and be able to contribute value. I think I'll stop there.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for those wonderful thoughts. David Adeoye, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, I'm here and I'm learning.
Fantastic. So coming back to you, right? Leadership is evolving faster than ever, right? So what qualities do you see redefining the next generation of HR leaders in 2026?
Well, like I said, thanks, I call her Sister Shay, and everyone who's spoken. Again, all the limbo is there. Thanks again, Adeyemi Ajayi. I mean, you took that right out of my script of many years too. The things you said about turning culture to competency and using that as competitive intelligence. You see, what emotion is to the individual is what culture is to the business. And we rise and fall to our emotional states and levels for the individual, our team. So there's emotional capital at the team level and the operational capital at the corporate level. But the operational capital is driven by the finally, praise God, there's deliverance now. So sorry, I forgot I was not in church. Sorry. Good to see you all. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that the limbo is there. It is the discernment capital to know that this is how this will hit us. For example, are we suffering from an operational challenge problem or emotional capital problem? while I know these two in the textbook, my ability to be situationally intelligent so that when I see the scenario, I know the button to fiddle with. And if I was to be a DJ of the company and there is an output, Y equals F of X, now that's law of engineering. It means these are the factors X1, X2, X3, X4. It means, I mean Segun stuff now. It means, for example, there's emotional capital, there is team dynamics, there's managerial excellence, there's operational excellence. All these parameters are not these fanciful things. What percentage of what do I need to tweak to get what level of output? What result, for example, is good for me in the beginning, but we will burn out if we continue at that speed. Although we are meeting the board requirement, what compliance errors am I allowed to have that will not take me out of business? Look, I'm in the game of studying the future all the time. The future is not as scary as people think. The problem will be discernment. That's number one. And to determine what to mix together to give us what outcome. The other thing is that when we say words, they are not meanings. When you hear things like emotional intelligence, few people know that emotional intelligence would mean organized data and insights coming from emotional states. The ability to use emotions for decision making and results, taking it from just the way it's in textbook awareness, being aware of yourself, regulating yourself, and using that as a real factor of production. So the ability to be able to be practical and understand those things practically. The third one is understanding some new things that leaders need. For example, there's something called human and machine interface. I think DME referred to it, machine and humans. See that interface between machine and human and adjusting it at a corporate level will be very important because your mind and ChatGPT, as you're learning ChatGPT is learning you. Your mind and ChatGPT must begin to merge at corporate level for you to deploy it as a result, and so that you can make it competitive, intelligent. You must, so that your competition will not just use AI and they will not be getting the same results you're getting. I'll drop something that happened, I think, to is it McKinsey? No, either Ernst and Young, one of the big fives in Australia. They gave the government a report, big reports, with big money paid, only to find out that it was error. They've paid the money back, they have done everything, but the stigma is lasting. So that AI is good is not the problem. That AI is here to stay is not the problem. Is to know how to manage the human and machine interface and how much AI should mix with how much human effort and what kind of human effort should mix with what kind of AI effort. Do you want to go in the direction of DeepSeek? And what's your AI strategy and policy? And you cannot afford now to be AI naive. Or, oh, no, everything we just do by brain. You can't be policing people now and say, don't use AI in the office. No, they will use it at night and bring the work to the office. Don't even bother doing all those things. Say, this is, we're going to invest. One exec was telling me here in London, says investing in tools that detect AI. I said, really? I said, what is that to AI? Oh, Lord, I laughed because he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's good for 6 months max, after which people will find out how to beat that thing he's talking about. What's my point? To be knowledgeable enough, and I think Sister Shea said, to be knowledgeable enough to know that I'm weak in this area, and I need to get Segun Akiole to help me look at data and study the ability to know the interface and design solutions that work for you as a leader and as a business will be far more superior because we have many tools available. We just £10, £20, or $10. You got loads of tools available to you all of a sudden. So the ability to select which one to use is now the issue, not that I have ChatGPT. I mean, I round up on this. What's that guy who speaks funny in the UK? Former Prime Minister. I saw a video where it was called ChatGPT. That's the way he was calling the ChatGPT. You see that video on Instagram. That I know that he just seen for the first time. ChatGPT, very awesome. ChatGPT. He's using it as a browsing tool, as advanced Google. The WhatsApp, what he was talking about. what's my point? To know the use case and how that will influence you. Those things will be more important than the traditional management thingy. Those are my points, and I yield the mic.
Thank you so much for this wonderful insights. Segun, coming to you finally on this conversation around leadership strategy and HR business transformation. Of course, you are a very much data-driven person, like David Adu you mentioned earlier, right? Now, how will data-driven insights reshape executive decision-making, right? And what capabilities must HR build to influence board-level strategy with evidence-based perspectives going into 2026? I'll take that again. How will data-driven insights reshape executive decision-making, and what capabilities must HR build to influence board-level strategy with evidence-based perspective?
Okay, so I'm going to try to break it down. And I'm going to use a simple model. I just learned this model. So the challenge most individuals, starting from the individual going into the organization, the major challenge we have is what I cannot conceptualize, I cannot translate it to the organization. So, Prof, we're calling you Professor Adeoye, we're calling you Prof for today. Yeah, Prof, don't worry. From the emotional side, getting into the cultural side. Now, data is nothing, it's nothing too complex. As a matter of fact, we're sharing data just by talking now. When you share your emotions, so how do you feel? What are you trying to achieve? That's data. So for leaders, they need to be able to find the convergence between three things. Number one is the input. What's the goal for the organization? Most of the time, we spend a lot of time sharing the goal and sharing the outputs, revenue, whatever we want to do. And we forget the middle ground of process, which is where everything falls flat. Now, why do we create policies? Most of the time, the reason why we bring consultants to an organization is that we're not able to translate between your inputs, your goal, and your output of revenue. Now, the in-between is the process bit. And most of the time, leadership needs to go beyond the fluffy things. They need to go beyond the in thing. Now you're thinking AI transformation. Mrs. Adegoke said, some organizations cannot afford it. They are medium-sized organizations. So what you should be selling to them is what is going to scale their business in whatever they're doing. Give them processes that will make it work faster. So we need to stop this. We feel that when we bring, I'm a consultant, I do consultancy job, but it's not a function of how big what you're trying to achieve is the ability for people to connect with it. And I'll say this, I was in a session earlier this week, and I spent close to 2 hours of my life in that session. And at the point, I was asking myself, Segun, you are lost. Because I could not make sense out of everything that was being said. Simply because maybe they used an example that did not resonate with me. But if I use an example of I want to buy a car in this room, people start to think about a car, right? What kind of car do you need? Now, let's bring that to the organization. If you cannot lead yourself, leadership in an organization will fall flat. You can't fake leadership. So it starts from a point of self-leadership. If you're able to give yourself a target that you want to buy a car, you buy a car as an individual. When you come into an organization and you want to raise revenue or you want to raise fund to build an idea, it becomes easy. So leaders should be looking internal. More like, we need to rally the troop. You need to lead from the front. That's one thing that people will want to be able to know at this time. So data would only help you to now say, at what level of interaction do I need? What is So if I do a pulse survey to the organization, so how many people even understand what our vision looks like? Use simple language. Maybe that's the problem. The problem sometimes is not that people don't want to work, is that maybe they don't understand what they are supposed to do. So I give an example. So I have a 12-year-old and I have a 10-year-old. When I give them instruction, before they leave, I would ask them, what did I tell you? Simply because I want to understand whether they can conceptualize what I've just said. Most of the time in organizations, when we do, it's the season of board meetings, it's the season of strategy meetings. We're going to Lasher, we're going to everywhere. In most of the groups I'm in, that is what is happening December, January. Then when it starts to the middle of the year, everything just falls flat. What is the structure we are putting in place to check in if we understand what we are supposed to achieve? If it is too fluffy, too strict, as a matter of fact, when I go into such meetings, the question I'm asking is that what will be my own contribution as an individual? Before I start to go to HR, and what I try to do is to simplify it to me. If I can understand it, then I can put in my efforts from a self-leadership standpoint to be able to get it done. Now, data will only help you to create gateways. So at the start of the project, how much do people understand? Then in between, how much do they understand? But you need to be able to create check-ins. So you don't just do it at the beginning of the year and later in the year, before you revisit later, might be 6 months' time, when the year is about to go again. But it needs to be a constant check-in. Then data only helps you in terms of either quantitative data or qualitative data. A simple sitting down with your team will go a long way. So there's something interesting in UK. Every time you go on the street, you must smile at somebody. You must greet and smile. When you start the meeting, the first 5-10 minutes, we will discuss the weather. If we don't discuss the weather, life... Now, simple and as ridiculous that looks to someone from Africa, if you don't interact in that 5-10 minutes, you are gone. You are not going to stay in that organization for long. Because it's cultural intelligence. In that simple interaction, you will connect with people. People share what they are going through. From there, you know what people are going through over the weekend. Not until when you send a voice note or but you already know what is happening. Oh, what happened? Oh, my dog. Oh, my cat. And you are being empathetic. As a matter of fact, you don't know what that does to the emotional state of someone. So what am I saying in essence? Leaders need to be human. And HR needs to also help the leadership to be as human as possible, to know that there's a difference between operating as a machine. So what differentiates us between AI is the human intelligence. As a matter of fact, I was fighting with ChatGPT a couple of days ago. ChatGPT gave me an information that is wrong. And I said, sorry, that information is wrong. And he came back, hey, thank you, you spotted it. I said, your head is correct. But the reality that I'm saying is that you also need to put the human, even when you're creating that interface between machines and the business. That process level is where you're able to connect your input and your output. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shane, for those wonderful insights around data and using data the appropriate way. Now, David, coming back to you, right? As we take the final round of questions before we go into the Q&A from our participants. As HR becomes increasingly digitized, right? How can we guard against dehumanizing systems while still driving speed and efficiency? I know we've talked a lot about AI and using AI the appropriate way or not. So how do we guard against dehumanizing our systems while still driving speed and efficiency? David Adeoye.
What do you mean by dehumanizing? You want to dehumanize systems. What system? Computer system or human system? or the organizational system?
Organizational systems. Human and organizational systems. Yes.
No. Those
organizational systems. Yes. Organizational systems.
Okay. You're asking to answer how Africa became a continent in 3 minutes. What does it mean to dehumanize systems? Are you saying how do we become more human and humane? Because we are now being machined up. There's the accent of machines. We are in the age of machine intelligence again. It's happened at the turn of the millennium. For example, guarding against job losses and all of that. I think the first thing is that the point that Segun made, AI is not be all and end all. AI can be wrong. To know that we can't outsource thinking and driving these machines is the first place, the mental picture of that the human being is the soul of the enterprise. That originally man created machine, we can't outsource the soul, the seat of will, emotion, intellect, decision making, meaning, peace, the corporate engine of the organization cannot be outsourced to machine intelligence, because we will have to give the machine the necessary processes and the necessary inputs to deliver that soul. And the fact that machines will fight us for that being, the human being. Machines will fight us because we're going to be impressed psycho-emotionally with their speed and all of that. And that's your second point, that in the age of excellence and this speed and all of that, all of a sudden Google is no longer enough to search. Now everybody uses the AI machines and all of that. But the key is not to forget that there was a brief, and that does this output from the machine meet the brief? There's also the conversations around ethical and moral use of these machines. In fact, there's new academic bodies of knowledge talking about the rights of AI, the rights of AI, something like that. There's a paper, there are white papers on the rights of AI. But there I saw, I was like, AI now, don't they get right? I mean, I didn't read the paper because I was too not happy with the paper. But I'm beginning to select what I read. That's me now, because there's a lot to read, and before I come and go and die. So I'm making decisions deliberately to remain humane despite being driven by machines. So what's my bigger point? My bigger point is that we cannot outsource our leadership and our soul to these machines, no matter how efficient they are. We can't outsource purpose and meaning. And every organization rises and falls by the people. I want to add to what Mrs. Adepeju said. Also, every organization rises and falls by the strength of the signal of the enterprise in the soul of the emperor. If the soul of the emperor, and by his management team begins to wane, the empire, this is what history says, the empire begins to disappear from the fringes. The more the soul of the emperor withers in the middle as a core pulsating factor like that, the enterprise begins to be small. When the soul of the emperor begins to glow brightly, the empire begins to grow. That's the picture history presents to us. That the glow of the heart of the emperor is the being of the emperor. The pumping of the blood and the strength of the emperor's energy is directly proportional to the size of the enterprise. We must find a means, according to Segun Akiode, of ensuring that we are measuring that pumping and the strength of the glow in the soul of the emperor or the management team or the leadership. That is our only key. The other thing is that we must give AI ethical use, like I said, and there must be people who look at the ethics of AI. The other part is that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. This one, we are putting everything to the cloud and everything to the machine. One of these days, the machine will become your enemy and revolt. All the things you're putting in the cloud, it says, all cloud, I'm on cloud, I'm secure, I'm on cloud. If cloud suddenly begins to rain, I mean, this is a joke. We were discussing at the Senate, and somebody said, this cloud, what if it begins to rain? We were discussing IT, and somebody said that's the proof that the presenter failed. It's not, the joke is not on the person who said that. The presenter didn't explain to them that cloud is not this atmospheric cloud. That is the pitch. So if all of a sudden your data becomes available in the dark market, and you are now culpable, now CEOs will begin to pay heavily when their customers' data is breached. Some CEOs are going to jail now, and many more will go if there's data breach. Chief of HR is the next one that will be beside them. They will share tell on a lighter note to reminiscence about what they did wrong. So before you love to be CHRO, Mr. Prince, sir, this question you ask me must be top. And how many months will you serve in jail if something happens to data of customer? Some that didn't used to concern you before, you now begin to go to jail because somebody made mistake with server. Do you understand what the problem is? Why did I make that joke that gory and make it that dark? People will begin to have to sign different contracts as chief of human resources based on the question you ask, that I hereby sign to make the organization more humane than machine. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, when you sign those kind of things, you sign your blood. You're going to be signing as a, for example, a guardian of the realm, a protector of the realm, of people's sanity. If you're going to be signing those kind of contracts, you can't be signing the kind of money you are signing now. You now need insurance. Now, what I'm saying is that the workplace is changing gradually and the heat and the fire is on. Who will be saying we're not going to take that kind of heat on? No, we're not going to take that kind of fire on. How would that person work so that he's going to keep all of us safe? That must be scoped out and written in somebody's JD, the ethical standards of the organization, and that will give us some more stress. And this person must have understanding of AI and business process and the environment and legals all at once for that person or that department to take on that responsibility. They can't dump anything at HR like HR. Anything that comes, HR, they say innovation, HR, anything, you can't do that. Because the thing be having meaning in terms of whether you go to jail or you remain a free man. So I'm going on and on. I'm saying that what the question you're asking me requires that we grow, requires that we begin to build competencies slightly more than where we are today. And we need to understand AI. For example, I think, there should be a core, the way cybersecurity and IT has mirror, where every role in IT has a consequent person in cybersecurity team. Every single role in core IT, under the CIO, has a cyber person under it. Between HR compensation and benefit and finance, there's a mirror. Shegun will say this, there's a mirror. There's particular where the analysts they must have complementary skill sets. In like manner, there's need for IT and HR to have mirror friends, or AI and the technology team in HR to have mirror. So there should be somebody or a team in HR who also has understanding and they can help us to think through all the decisions. For example, when we buy a corporate solution of ChatGPT. So that is my take on that question, and thanks for asking.
You appreciate such in-depth insights into that question. Thank you so much. Mr. Adequate, coming to you, right? What mindset shift do HR professionals need the most going into 2026? What mindset shift do HR professionals need going into 2026?
So the truth about it is that if you had listened, everybody has listened, everybody has said something. Everybody has said something. Make sure that you understand risk management. Make sure you are consistently looking for information, but look for information that would help you. Don't be too scared about what is happening. I just believe that every HR person should just be grounded. And in coaching, we say be grounded is be aware. What are my fears? What can I do? What am I equipped to do? What am I not equipped to do? And like never before, you need your company, people that you can run things by. I'm not talking about LinkedIn warriors, I'm talking about people who understand what human resources is and the business of human resources. I'm not talking about people who are out there and they copy things, and you have to leave the realm of please share template with me. You need to enter into the realm. I've done this template. Can you please give me your input? And then you need to leave the realm of thinking that you're going to do what Mr. Adeoye is doing at your organization. You're looking for somebody to look for the cyber security. You don't even have any server. Why are you stressing yourself? Even your company website, it doesn't have email. All of you are using your personal Gmail. HR people have to be realistic. Be realistic. Understand where you are. You're not competing with anybody. This is where your exposure has reached. Work at it and work at it very well. And be proud of who you are as a person. The final one I want to say, because I see a lot of us always antagonizing business owners. And so, if you feed the cow will continue to produce milk. But when you don't feed the cow will die. So when you now put yourself and say, I don't like what management is doing, management is always doing this. Anytime I hear you, I just look at you with one eye. At times I want to appear to you in your dream, but I just say, let me just leave you alone, that you mature. You are not on the side of management or worker. You are a professional. You are balancing things. So stop pitching people against organization. Look at yourself as a solution provider. That's why people are struggling with our jobs. They will bring an accountant to come and be head over us because we are always trying to prove ourselves. I don't need to prove myself. The taste of the pudding is in the eating. When I give you facts, I give you my insights. If you take it, fine. If you don't take it, okay. Tomorrow again, I will never stop giving you insight because I'm not going to allow you kill wonders inside my stomach. I just said the Yoruba proverb. If you can translate it, you can translate it. If you can, but I'm just saying, be calm, have your group, be a learner. You can't save the world. You can't do what they're doing in Trevor in your organization, but you get to an organization. So all these things that you're learning, just put them in your kitty. Keep learning, keep reading. For instance, I'm learning a lot about AI. A lot. I'm developing my own AI agent. Stay there. That's why they call me Gen Z Mama. First time I met Mr. Kyode, he said people like us, we can't learn. So I'm telling you now that I'm doing AI agents. So keep learning, keep pushing on. You are good, you are great, you are awesome, and you're going somewhere to happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gen Z Mama. Madam Sheyi, as we wrap up, please, our participants, if you have questions, you can use your raise hand feature on your screen, and then we'll bring you on board to ask your questions. If you want to type in the chat box, please do that. All right, Sheyi, what's your perspective? Let's talk about learning and development now. What's your perspective on the learning culture organizations need to nurture in 2026?
Okay, in 2026, you cannot afford to stop learning and to stop helping, for organizational learning and learning organization to take place. And I always like, when I'm talking about L&D, I always like to separate those two because most times we concentrate on one and sacrifice one on the over the other. So because we find out that workforce mobility is predominant, has taken center stage right now, organizations are beginning to lose their key talents, formidable talents. Talent acquisition is even very expensive. There's a role an organization is trying to fill. The last person that left that role was on 40M. The average price we are seeing now is 100 and something. How would that, and that role is very key for the organization. How would they handle that? It is injurious for them. to contract out that role, because the only other alternative is to say, okay, let's have a consultant. It's a key role for them. So it is important that, one, as an organization, organizational learning is very key. And this is where I always like to hinge my argument on this. Your operational, organizational process asset, I mentioned it earlier on. Adeyemi had mentioned about culture. Your organizational culture is entrenched in your OPA. You must, by default, ensure that you have that system in place where you are documenting and then using this as a training tool for everyone to kind of tight-proof your organization. And then have, Pedro mentioned something the other day. We've had it in many organizations, and we still do it even in my organization and every organization where we talk about knowledge sharing sessions. Your knowledge sharing session it shouldn't be just about these coming days, and even now, it shouldn't be just about, I just want to share information. What problems are you solving? You have a challenge that happened in finance. Why must it be only finance people that must address and solve the problem? Why can we not bring everybody in the organization so we have a clear view of what is happening within the organization? And then there's a documentation. Now, one other area that a lot of us organizations are not taking advantage of for our L&D is our KMS, our knowledge management systems. How are we managing our KMS? How are we documenting so that we are using it? People are leaving and they are going. And we keep saying upskill and reskill, upskill and reskill. You upskill, reskill, they go. An organization sent someone to Harvard in July for a program that they paid so much for. The guy met some people there. He's there during the session. He had the interview, got a fantastic job in that place. He signed a bond. Quite all right. And he came back, he gave you people the check. He paid and he moved on. Now, don't forget that as far as the HR was concerned, after all, he has paid for the training. I said, no. I said, go and take an account of the capital investment in that staff. Since he came on board, you have lost that investment. So for HR, the future of HR is not just about managing people. One, it is about designing human experiences that will help your organization to thrive. But in doing that, your retention strategy must be such that you are replicating each other. You are replicating, so one individual should not just be key to just one knowledge area. I don't know how to speak the English, Me, I went to night school. I don't know how to speak that English.
Avoid human risk. It's called human risk.
Oh, thank you, my prof. Key man risk. Avoid key man risk. Everybody, I work for an organization right now as long as I also manage my consulting firm. There is nothing I'm doing. I have deliberately stayed away from the organization for 3 weeks. Work is going. When I check their email, I'll say, no, you've made a mistake there, do that. You know why? For that organization, they may look at it and say, somebody said to me, Sheyi, that it seems as if you are not doing anything. I said, oh, really? Okay. If it's that style you want, I can do it. Then the day I move with all
I think the internet's just disrupted half.
AI threw her out.
Yeah, welcome back, Sheyi. Go ahead. You can finish your thoughts.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, wow. I think she just left. So we'll just move on very quickly. we're pressed for time already. All right, so Adeyemi, what advice would you give HR leaders to remain strategically influential next year?
Okay, so I'll just give a few tips around talent management, workforce models, productivity and performance quickly as few of thoughts. One is we need to have an integrated work structure. That's one thing that HR needs to begin to look at. And when I say integrated work structure, it is not every time that somebody leaves an organization that you want to replace them. So you must begin to understand that you have gig workers, you have temp workers, you have contractors, independent contractors. How can you leverage all of these work structure models and bring them to use for organization? So if somebody leaves in a role, why not spend the next 6 months using a gig worker to perform that function and save money for your organization? Go limbo. That becomes very, very strategic in terms of how we manage our talent. Number two is there'll be we need to focus more on building talent right now rather than buying talent, which comes to also our retention strategy. This will be very, very strong as HR. Like she said, it's very expensive now to buy talent, but it's cheaper for you to build internally. And that brings me to another model. Now, we need to begin to make use of interns, corpers, much more as your talent pipeline. So don't just focus on graduate internship programs. Those 200 level students, 300 level students, CWS who come in for internship and all of those things, there are roles that you can begin to fit them into and begin to build their skills from there. So that even by the time you nurture them, when they come back and they are done with school, it's easy for you to absorb them because you're already, into your system. It also helps you. Then internal mobility, very, very, very key right now. Internal mobility. Then how can you map skills internally? Is very, very, very crucial for HR. Now, there are people who are, for example, somebody is in account department, but he also has a lot of skills that you can use that person for internal audit purposes. Somebody is in payables, he also has some skills that you may be able to use as a receivable person. So you need to begin to map the skills that people have internally and see how you can begin to push them around the organization. So there should be more focus on internal mobility rather than external sourcing. And we must be able to separate the cost of insourcing and the cost of outsourcing talent. It is time for us to adopt the build and borrow talent management framework because this will help us to minimize cost and also help us to sustain our culture and ensure that we can stabilize our culture within the organization. This is very, very important for us. All right. I've talked about business models that we need to use earlier on. Let me touch on this quickly. Predictive analytics and workforce capability mapping is very, very crucial. Predictive analytics and workforce capability mapping is very, very important. We need to identify the skills that are going into obsolescence and proactively begin to develop future skills that will require in the organization. What are those skills that will no longer be needed? What are the skills that are going to be needed? So you must be able to do skill inventory within the organization, HR, for you to become more strategic. Carry out your skill inventory, look at the skills that are going into execution, look at what you're going to be needing, and then begin to develop your internal people so that you don't need to go and buy those skills at very exorbitant prices. Maintain strategic talent supply chain. They're very, very crucial. Maintain strategic talent supply chain. Undergraduate internship, I've mentioned that. Strengthen your internal pipeline. We must have clear frameworks for data and AI governance. This is very important. If you don't have AI policy already in your organization, it is time for you to have it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Start with something for now. What can people use AI for? What should they not use AI for? What kind of AI should they even be using? Is it ChatGPT? Is it Copilot? Is it Gemini? Or do you want to build your own within the organization? Define it so that people know that, yes, it is okay to use AI, but within certain frameworks that it must be used. And let me land on this quickly. We need to have a dashboard for monitoring our people risk with a huge focus on workforce intelligence at the executive level. Because very, very important. On the surface, on the dashboard, be able to see what is going on, who is likely going to leave your organization, who is likely going to stay, what can you begin to do to be able to at least, secure the future of the organization. Let us begin to practice strategic succession planning. Readiness mapping is very important. The gap between those that should be ready now, those that should be ready in 2 years, those that should be ready in 3 years, it should not be too far. So that when people decide to leave, like Peju mentioned earlier on, like Sheyi mentioned earlier on, so that it doesn't become a huge problem for the organization. Your knowledge management system becomes very important. And critically, employee well-being and wellness. It are the phase of the things that we are doing. People want a psychologically safe workplace where they can feel very comfortable to be able to speak out. Let us not overwhelm people with workload. Let us be careful and be mindful of their well-being. And leaders, let us create that environment where people are safe and they're able to contribute their quota and they can stay within the organization for a longer period. I think all of this will help us to become more strategic as HR managers and for us to contribute more in focusing on the growth of our organization, even as we move into the 2026 era. I think I'll pause here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adeyemi Ajayi. All right. Finally, Segun, of course, we can't end this session without talking about what's coming from the 1st of January 2026 here in Nigeria, right? With Nigeria implementing the tax reform in January 2026. How should leaders prepare their organization in terms of payroll compliance, compensation structure, employee communication, and on cost optimization to stay fully aligned with these changes?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to talk about the new Tax Reform Act. There are a lot of changes that are already defined, and there will be more changes that will become clearer as the year starts. So what should you be doing now? I would not say it's late, but it's not too late until it's 1st of January. By now, earlier, about a few months ago, I was opportune to be on AEHRP and also the Lagos State chapter to speak on the full details. So you can binge watch any of those information. But what are the critical things you should start doing? You should be able to start communicating to your employees now from a standpoint of start running your simulations. What's going to change? Everybody is afraid around the rent relief. I said something jokingly on a group. I said, why are you using Panadol for National Revenue Service headache? They said the tax authorities are going to confirm the rent paid. As an organization, create a simple disclaimer for each employee to declare their rent, attach the payment, use it for your payroll, and put it there that if tomorrow it is disputed by Internal Revenue Service and Nigerian Revenue Service, they will bear the risk. Why are you getting disturbed as to you have 200,000 employees? Create a program, policy around it, disclaimer. Please, if you put the wrong data, the wrong receipt, and anything happens after then, please, you will show yourself to Alagbon or wherever they are taking you to. That's a simple way you can do it because, one, you also need a system to report it on a monthly basis. Now, if everything goes well, there's going to be an integration similar to what is happening with pension at the moment. Fine, don't worry. The technology is going to have some hiccup when they start. I'm beginning to speak like a politician, but that's the reality. A few days ago, the pension portal went down and people could not remit. We would have such situations. They want to start to look at real-time reporting, which is what is happening in developed organizations. But the structure is not yet formed, but the policy and the tax has been passed to start. So what is your payroll system speaking to? Are you still at manual level? Are you still on Excel? You need to start updating those templates. And for BIK tax, all of those things that you do for your ESCOs, I know Adeyemi is smiling at me. He's still going to chat me up after now. All those things that you do for your executives, all those housing that you pay, all those cars that you pay, I will not be in a position to tell you should not do it, but be reality and be free that in the new regime, all of those taxes are going to be open to taxation. It means for every company car that is not parked in the company premises, it is not a company car. If the guy can take it to his house, park it in front of his house, take it for social events, it is not company car. It is status car. It's a BIK you're enjoying. So that is now going to become part of it. And for the big boys, capital gains, those of us that have a lot of investment, those small ones. And interestingly, they said the short-term investments are not going to be open for taxation, which means the investment organization, I still have interest in Nigeria. And I got an email saying I will need to tell them my thing. I said, Oga, how much is inside the thing now? You want to remove withholding tax on an interest that you want to pay. And you are saying what that means is this. The government wants to find a way to track everything happening in your bank accounts. And the reality is this. It is not starting tomorrow. It has started. You have a BVN, you have an NIM. Those are identifiers already. You think they're going to tell you to go and register? No, they already have the database. They know and interestingly, your NIM is tied to your passport, right? It's tied to your phone number. You think they cannot track you? No, now the data is already there. It's just for 1st of January to start. Yes, there are some exemptions. Yes, there are conversations saying it's going to favor the low-income earners. But let's be realistic. That population is a small population. So a lot of us is going to be impacted. So HR people should start doing this simulation and start communicating. This is what you are earning now. This is what you're going to earn from January, plus or minus. Please don't be too assertive. When I use the word assertive, you could do your calculation now, and the tax authorities can say, no, that's not where but you should be able to give them an idea. Plus or minus, your effective tax rate is going to become X%. Get ready. And when the conversation starts to come up, invest in training. You need to start training your HR people. This is the time for collaboration between HR, finance, taxes. HR people, don't leave it to finance. You are going to become liable. I don't want to tell you what happens that they are going to take you to court now. Remember when they said it about pensions, that if you don't remit, there's going to be court cases and the rest. Something similar is in there inside of taxation. So this is the time to be agile, the time to start thinking around automation, your payroll system. It's not going to be sustainable to make it manual for too long. So you need to find a simple system to make it easy. If it's Excel, automate the Excel. There are VBA codes you can write into your Excel that can run your payroll, pay your pay slip and everything. So you don't really need a sophisticated system, but you need to be ready of that change because the change is here. And generally, be data literate. This is not a time to run away. This is the time where you need to read those laws so that you can understand. Don't leave it to your tax guys to interpret the tax. Tax consultants, this tax, according to the chairman of the committee, he said, this is the realm when the tax consultant, you don't have to go talk to quack anymore. So we need to read it for ourselves so that we can also be ready for the change that is coming. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Segun Akiyade. I don't see any questions in the chat box and I don't see any hands raised. So I think we can wrap up at this point. But before we go, 60 seconds, closing reflections.
Sorry, there's a question.
Yes.
That's why I raised my hand. There's a question by Peter Osazua. He said, I'm still at a loss of what HR outlook would look like in 2026, especially because what are being said are all what is happening right now. I'm reading the way it's written. We seem to talk about stepping out of the traditional HR, when in fact the tradition appears to continue with little toning? What would you say would be the new thing or things that would be nuanced for 2026 when compared to its recent past? I leave that to the senior people. It's not for small girls like us.
All right. Any of our panelists want to react to that?
Okay. So I'm going to be a bit philosophical. There's nothing new under the sun. Let's be realistic with a few things. The reason why there is not going to be anything new, technically, at the same time, it might be a new experience. Now, knowing fully well that the pace of technology in other countries is slightly different from Africa. So while we're talking about AI, and interestingly, Professor Adeoye mentioned it. I think Professor is coming in front of your name. Maybe I don't know. You already have about 2 or 3 masters or PhDs, right? Okay, I know. I see it. Don't mind me. Now, in my own organization, for example, we already have a policy around recording sessions like this. There's what we call Freedom of Information Act in the UK. And it means in a session that is recorded like this, someone can request and say, my name was mentioned. Every information you have on me from the time I started the organization, I need you to give it to me. So there are a lot of things around ethics and compliance. Now, that's something that might look new to a Nigerian audience or someone in Africa, but it's a reality. So when we talk about 2026, it's going to start like early new year. But we're already seeing a few trends in terms of policies of government, things around immigration, depending on where you're living. The tax part for Nigeria is a critical one. So that's almost something you need to be ready for. And there'll be some other things that'll be carryovers from the years ago. A few things that some other countries have forgotten it existed. Things around talent mobility, things around competency framework. They are existing. Talent pipeline, build, buy. Those things have been there for donkey years. But the reality is coming home closer to us that this is when it is a reality. This is when we need it. As a matter of fact, this year alone, I've had opportunity to work on 2 different organizations around competence. And I'm wondering, sorry, these things have been there forever, but it has come, the reality has dawned on that organization. So as HR people, this is when you need to be ready for the changes. You need to start getting ready, but don't be afraid. Calm down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Segun. Jay, go ahead.
Okay, just to follow the thoughts, line of thoughts Segun was speaking about, and this is one great concern for me right now, and it's one of the things I'm saying to every HR individual, and I think I've also been talking about this since COVID. E&C, number 1, takes the front line. We talked about AI, technology, the exposure, and so many things. And all these things, the risk aspect of the organization is also being highlighted because we're having flexible work hours. I give you a typical example. Something happened. I'm going to speak on two points, E&C and C&P, which is contracting and procurement. Now, we employed in one of the organizations where I'm working, they employed a copper. And because they do remote work, they give everybody in the organization a laptop. So this is a copper from the north. And they have a strong IT policy. I mean, the kind of the laptop they give you, you can't put a flash drive in it, it corrupts it. They are very protective with their data and all. But guess what? This guy couldn't use a system. So I needed to put him through something on the ERP. And I opened his laptop. He had movies downloaded. Movies. I'm like, which day did you come? You already have the whole film house already in your laptop. So I said, I could just pick him up and just say, no, you're watching movies. No, my red flag. I said, risk, pam, 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 risk. So I asked him, And guess what? We are dealing with an IOC. We are dealing with experts. We are dealing with so many international. So you begin to see how our data can be infiltrated. What's the English? So at the end of the day, I asked him simple questions. I said, oh, so who do you stay with? Oh, my brother. I said, oh, good. What does your brother do? He told me. I said, oh, fantastic. So I asked him another question. I said, oh, I can see you like watching movies. He said, yeah, yes. So I said, okay. Are you the only one that watches movie on this system? He said, no, me and my brother. I said, yeah. I said, it's good, it's good. I said, he did not know that what I was trying to do is to gather information. Quickly, I called the group HR. I said, please withdraw that system. For them, yes, I know we work hybrid. Unfortunately, we have to live with it until we find out how we can approach it. Please, that laptop, can you please withdraw it? Let this category of staff have desktop. Don't worry, let them not go home with laptop. We will not give them those kind of jobs. They will only work with us on their phone. It's okay. Now, HR is because, you know, they always say you are police. You are the system police and all those stuff. HR role right now, apart from trying to make sure that you are refilling because people are leaving, mobility is happening, is to assume the role of E&C, ethics and compliance, like you said. Then contracts and procurement. You must school yourself in contracts. You must school yourself in how to use not just policy. How are you contracting the jobs? See, job contracts are changing. Gone are those days where you will say, this is our employment template. And so I will use the same employment template that I use for Sheyi, I will use for Shegun. It's uniform. Gone are those days. Because why? The gig economy is upon us. Lattice role is upon us. Flexible roles is upon us. So your contracts, you must begin to assume that procurement, that vendor management kind of contract, that you will do things like SLA specific to roles. And then ensure that those risk aspects of NDAs, norms, circumvention, data protection, there's an organization, a letter of employment alone is about almost 10 pages. Then on their own, again, when you finish, the legal team now has almost a 15-page for you. You will sign, even you yourself, you'll be afraid. When they ask you, where do you work? You'll be afraid to say it. You understand? Because everybody's trying to protect in this day and age, you know, to proof their organization. And that is very key. Because once there's something that's going to hit the media, and I know they're trying to work, they're trying to hush it. An organization is going bankrupt. Why? Because two people leaked their blueprints to competitors. So you have to, HR, you have to start thinking in that regard as you are making sure that organization has the human resource, everything is going well, people are skilled or not. Hey, how do I prove tight-proof our organization? So it's important that we begin to look at role-specific contracting as well. Thank you. I think that's a closing for me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sheyi.
Let me just take a minute in addition to what Shegun and Esther Sheyi has said, and Professor Ajayi is also typing very interesting points. In terms of what you see specifically, one of the challenges of a 12-month period in forecasting is that it's too short to be definite and also too long to ignore. It's too short to be definite and also too long to ignore. But in terms of Nigeria, if you're concerned, I mean, that question should be situated. What country are you? You want to know specifics in your country, we can talk about it. But for Nigeria, the tax law is the burning issue. The second issue will be insurgency and cost of living adjustments. The petrol pump price is being projected to happen. What would you do about alternative power? The other thing is your health insurance. There are new laws that is prompting organizations to look at insurance from another perspective. The other thing about Nigeria is that we're going to see some organizations literally reduce how much female staff they have. There'll be some what you call discrimination against female staff because of all the issues around child. So you need to prepare your organization. Now, another thing is some of it will be sector driven. There's energy to want to reduce how much Indians, for example, are in manufacturing. It will be a tough one and there'll be legal battles and it won't be easy. But this current administration is trying to mute quietly the idea that manufacturing has been hijacked by Indians. If you're in the financial services sector, cyber will be a big issue. In the oil and gas, yes, local content is a big issue in oil and gas. Very, 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 very big. Thank you, NCTMB in oil and gas is big. If you're learning and development, this is your gold mine. Local content is your gold mine. If you're in learning and development, and you're in this room, this is the time you can make all the money in the world. And please don't send your documents. Go look for relationships. Go join the Shell Club and the the Chevron Club. Don't send this your proposal thing you are doing up and down. And the other thing is that we are getting to the day when religious houses like churches are now having big HR departments. I don't know whether that's a good thing or that's a bad thing. I don't know. As a pastor, I'm tempted to sentimentalize. But as someone that understands economics, I'm not sure. So aviation has its own. So the question you are asking is a consulting question. That's my bigger point. And don't use style to not want to pay. So please kindly send your brief to the appropriate quarters. That brother asking that question, I'm using one eye to look at you. You are trying to get free consultancy, which I think that AHRP should not. I rest my mic on that note.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. Kelvin, I see your hand. 30 seconds. Go ahead, Kelvin. You're muted. Please unmute.
Okay, thank you so much to the facilitators. Oga Segun, I was thinking, okay, my understanding is that the tax relief, the rent relief is 20% of annual rent paid of 500K, whichever is lower. If my understanding is correct, then I'm asking, is there going to be need for every employee to be coming with evidences of rent? Are we going to be having all that document here and there? Or will just go ahead, or it will just be a complete adoption like you have in pension where you say, okay, minimum of BHT, 8% of PE, employee pension, 10% of, so which means it will be a tag of 500K maximum. So that's my understanding. I don't know. Maybe you can throw more light.
That's a wrong assumption, and you need to be careful if you do that because the law in that's one of the things I said. I think that part is a bit unclear. There is the burden of proof of the evidence of the rent payment. So if my rent payment is 1 million, then I get 20%. If my rent payment is 3 million per annum, I get 20%. But if it is more than, or if the maximum cap is now 500K. Now, the reference I was mentioning is that you cannot have a blanket reference. You need to be able to tell your employees and take notes. If I am living in my own house or I'm staying with my dad, my mom, you cannot claim it because when the tax authorities ask for tax evidence to say, why did you apply 300K for this person? Why did you apply 400K? Why did you apply 500K? The burden of proof is there. And that's why I said, as an organization, the only way you can reduce your risk is to let the employees know that they will bear the repercussion if they present Oluwole rent receipts. because you as an organization cannot take on that risk. That is why I use the word disclaimer. Create a portal, create a simple place where employees put it in, payroll pick it up and apply. When they are done, such that when there's a need for tax, every year there's an audit, you know that it is there. And the disclaimer has been able to clear you as an organization from the risk of the employees presenting something wrong. Because if there's a tax liability, employee would be called upon to provide a proof. So it's not a blanket application of 20% and it's not blanket 500K. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Calvin. I believe that answers your question. All right. I don't see any other question in the chat box. I have one here. How can we have HR-specific competency frameworks for Nigeria, perhaps curated by CIPM or other HR professional bodies? Adeyemi Ajayi, I don't know if you can reply.
CIPM has a body of knowledge, which is a competency framework. And that particular body of knowledge has also been reviewed by CIPD UK, and it has been aligned. And that is why you have the mutual recognition of certificate. If you're a member of CIPM, you're also recognized as a member of CIPD because the body of knowledge has both been aligned. And the same thing is also happening with other global organizations. So you can check the body of knowledge on the CIPM website. You will find it. That's a competency framework for Nigeria, for HR practitioners in Nigeria. And of course, that also work for you, for UK, and also for Canada.
Yeah, and I'm going to also, let me just say 30 seconds. Because of the tax regime in Nigeria, a new trend is going to happen where people's companies will now be registered in Timbuktu, Zimbabwe, Benin Republic, and they will now be operational in Nigeria. So all these things that all these my good friends Shegu and all this part of, please go register in Benin Republic. You pay SEFA and it's very cheap, and then those have an outpost of operation in Lagos. I mean, no. So as HR, you are going to be expected to answer questions like, where is Oluwole? Which I wanted to ask Mr. Shegu, that what is Oluwole? What am I saying? You have to be street smart and be a solution provider. How do we get more affordable diesel? How do we make operations lighter? How do we make decisions? Should we go to Trinidad and Tobago to have our business registered there and then make the Nigerian operation? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying HR has opportunity when times are hard to be a business partner on the smart level, on the ethical smart level, to be ahead of the research necessary to keep the business afloat, to be a risk advanced party. Someone that goes ahead to study risks and give the CEO some sleep hours back. These are new niche areas that HR should play in. The CFO used to play there. I think Chief of HR can also play there. That's my last point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Of course, what a way to close the year. It's been a fantastic session today. Thank you so much, David Adoye. Thank you so much, Adeyemi Ajayi. Thank you, Shegu Akiyode, Seyi Olulade, and Adekweju Adogoke. We appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and inspiration and fantastic insights looking into 2026. I would like to invite the Global President of AHRP, Dr. Michael Ogu, to give official closing remarks and vote of thanks. Dr. Michael Ogu, if you're here with us, please.
Good evening, everyone. Please
good evening. We can hear you loud and clear.
Good evening.
All right. I'd like to say thank you to all our panelists. It's been an insightful session. First, let me start by thanking Segun for the insights on the rent relief. Like you said, Segun, NIN is there, BVN is there, your passport number is out there. Only God knows what is going to happen. You know, many thanks to Dr. Adeoye Abodunrin. I love the AI angle. Amazing. Mrs. Adegoke, thank you for your opening remarks. I think HR practitioners need to learn how to be calm, how to be still. And of course, my Egbon Adeyemi Ajayi, we sit on the CIPM Governing Council. Great insights on the person analysis. I say that HR practitioners need to begin to monitor those factors, both on a local and global scale. You'll be amazed the impact of the PESU factors that happen on the global scale on your company. And Shay, thank you so much for those OD insights. They've been amazing. I'd like to say to everyone on the call that beyond what we have shared tonight, my closing remarks as we round of our learning sessions for the year will be that HR practitioners need to combine 4 Fs, being firm, being flexible, being focused, and of course, add fun to what we do in HR. You know, they often say we're always too rigid and all of that. Let's try to balance the 4 Fs as we bring the year to a close. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, the Management Committee, the Global Advisory Council, and all members of HRP, we'd like to express our profound gratitude to all our panelists who are senior members of the association. Some of them are foundational members of HRP. They've been here since we started 8 years ago. So thank you so much to all of you. And Prince, an amazing job moderating this session. I don't know where you got those questions from, but anyway, thank you so much for moderating the session. And I'd like to tell everyone on the call, watch out. We have a lot of things in stock for us in the coming year. Our ethics masterclass is going to be coming sometime in 2026. Apologies, we could not hold that this year, but if you have a HRCI credential, hopefully before the end of first quarter, we should be able to help you fulfill that ethics requirement. Some of the things are changing from the HRCI end. A lot of scrutiny on submission of programs. So we just want to be sure that we are not caught, foul of their rules and regulations. So I hand over back to Prince. It's been an amazing session. Thank you so much. I've gleaned a lot of insights. Back to you, Prince.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our visionary leader and global president of the Association of Elite Human Resource Professionals. Before we say goodbye, the fun isn't over yet for 2025. On Saturday, November 29th, we'll gather at the Dr. Oluyemi Abayomi Fini Park, Webby Keja, Lagos, for the AHRP end of the year party, scheduled to start at 11 a.m. And of course, access fee is just 15,000 naira. And you will get full access to great music, laughter, games, and all the AHRP family vibe. In case you missed the gala and awards night in August, trust me, you do not want to miss the fun that would happen at the end of the year party in about 2-3 weeks. Of course, you can register via the link in the chat box or simply scan the QR code on your screen right now. It promises to be fun, and more fun. And of course, I can't wait to see your beautiful faces as we end the year in grand style. So from all of us at AHRP, the board, the management committees, and the entire global community, thank you for being part of our 2025 learning journey. And of course, thank you once again to our panelists for today. So here's to a transformative 2026 filled with growth, impact, and excellence. Thank you, and have a good evening. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Wonderful session.
Bye, coach. Bye, Mr. Segun Akiyede.